you can do that more in the dating landscape.
Wow. Okay, that's a good question. You know, it's funny. As I was walking over here, someone stopped me. I was saying before because they said I smelled good because I used a lot of perfume and no hairspray, so I used perfume. But I didn't tell you guys the rest of what happened with that conversation, but it applies to this. So as one of the first questions we get asked in New York is like, what do we do? So I answer honestly when people ask me what I do. When I'm single now, but apparently what I do is kind of like intimidating, right? With the matchmaking and everything that I do. So I told this guy what I do. I'm not gonna lie, it's a stranger on the street, and he was like, oh, are you kidding me? And he walked away from me and he said, you just made yourself undateable. And I was like, what? And I said, well, what did you want me to say? He's like, well, don't say that you're a matchmaker. Do you know how intimidating that is? You need to make up a lie. Just make up a lie. If you're single and you're really looking for someone. And I said, well, shouldn't I be honest about what I do? And this has been like my passion in my career for over a decade. I want a man that can handle that. That's not going to be intimidated. Why would I lie about that? And he said I should lie. But I don't believe that. So I believe in being authentic about everything, about who you are, because the truth is that you have to have someone who's going to accept you. Otherwise, you're going to have a fake relationship. And you know, you can pretend in the beginning, but then after a couple months, after the lust wears off, or hopefully it's not a couple months, hopefully you're still in those lustful stages for a long time and real love develops. But you can't hide anymore. You have to be vulnerable and you have to be real and authentic if you want a real relationship. So I believe in speaking your truth, whatever it is. Sometimes it's best to wait a little to tell that truth, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit more about what to disclose in dating in the beginning and not. But something as big as your career that's a part of your identity, I don't think that anyone should hide, no matter what it is that they do. So that's my 2 cents.
Mike?
I absolutely love Rachel's answer. I think that's so important to be yourself so that you find the guy that can handle who you really are. Because if you're going to have 60, however many years with a guy, he has to like you for who you are. But what I think is really important, and probably the most important thing, is when you're dating men, I think it's really hard to find a guy to be in a monogamous relationship, right? And I think what happens is a lot of the time, women stay in that relationship that has a personality disorder or that isn't good to you. So what I want to talk about is when we see a man not treating you well, sending him immediately and swiftly back into the dating pool. So that's kind of like what my point is and what I teach is looking for these red flags that immediately you should say, hey, this guy's not it for you, and get the hell out of there.
Well, definitely one thing that comes up when we say be who you are is be who you are and don't twist yourself into a pretzel, you know, to please whoever you're with or do whatever you think that they're going to want you to do and be. And often for a lot of people, men as well as women who come to me, they get such anxiety when they start a relationship that can be it's very difficult to manage that, and a lot of that is not about the person because they're pretty irrelevant at this point. They're just somebody you just met who you're starting to get to know. It's kind of like, look at what's going on with me, you know. One thing that I have people do often is do a romantic resume because it's not only men who have personality disorders, you ain't perfect either. It's not like a victim-villain situation here. A relationship is 50-50, and not only do you need to look at the pattern of the types of men who you get involved with, but you also need to look at who you are in the relationships and what your role has been. So it's really about developing self-awareness, and like I said before when we were first introducing ourselves, figure out who you are, get comfortable with who you are, learn how to, you know, love yourself and care about yourself and nurture yourself just for who you are and not about who am I with. And that really is a great keynote to being in a relationship and being authentic to yourself. But I think that also means let me look at myself and what am I doing? Not just the red flags and who I'm meeting,
we all have good and bad and rough and fun and awful sides to us. Well, in the beginning, I think it's all authentic, but if we looked at it as, we want to send our best delegates to go meet that other country. Let's not send our hothead out there right away and start World War III right away. So what we yeah. I also think that knowing what you want is a big part of authenticity. That so many of us go into, it could be dating, it could be anything, not actually, oh, I want to be married or I want this, but I don't really know what I want. I haven't really taken it down to the core of what I'm really committed to and what I want. And I think figuring that out, planning it, and not just saying, I want to be married with 2 kids and live in the suburbs, but really like, who's the person that you want to be married to? And think and write it out. You know, take a piece of paper and I want the person to have a job that they can be home and have family time. I want them to make a certain amount of money that we can live in a lifestyle. But, you know, if I tell you to go somewhere, I don't give you a map or tell you where you're going, you're not going to get there. And I think often we do that. We say, I want this, but it's so vague that then when we end up with something else and it doesn't get us to where we want, why are we surprised? We had a map to a totally different place.
I'll start with Mike, so I'll shake it up a bit so I'm not starting